everyone. I'm your speaker today, Christopher Dinkins, and today we'll be talking about what would happen if you were to essentially destroy the entire universe and change everyone's past, present, and future, no matter who it was, change all their futures, and then change like every aspect of the universe and break the entire timeline and make it unstable. Well, in the Disney Plus show Loki, it actually explores this topic and it goes into depth in what would happen if you were to break the normal timeline and to make it branch off into new timelines, multiverses even is what it's called. And that's essentially what we're going to be discussing today. What the show Loki is, what the show does, and like what happens in the show, and what event leads to the breaking of the multiverse inside this show, right? And then we'll also be talking about how this changes for the whole entire Marvel Cinematic Universe, because this is all based inside the MCU, which is the abbreviation for it. And essentially, we're just going to be talking about that. And according to the Newsweek article titled Loki Timeline Explained, How the Disney Plus Show Merges Two Different Points of MCU History, by author James Burton, the author states that the show was only possible due to Loki being granted a second life in a way by Avengers Endgames, which was the previous movie that started all these Disney Plus shows. And I believe it was one of the most recent movies. And this leads to Loki being teleported to a new place and inside that movie, which is able to be seen. And pretty much the show starts off when that point ends. And in the show, it's able to be seen that once he lands, he's immediately creating havoc like usual, right? Because it's Loki. And then after that, he immediately gets taken up by the Time Variance Authority, or the TVA, which is what it's called in the show, the abbreviation for it. And they essentially monitor all of time. He wasn't supposed to be there at the moment because in the movies, he dies, right? And in this one, he's still alive. He shouldn't be alive right now. And essentially, he's forced to pay for his crime, and he's sent to execution, right? But when he's about to be executed, there's this one guy named Mobius, played by Owen Wilson, and Loki's played by Tom Hiddleston, of course. And they have like a funny dynamic in the show, which is important later on. And Mobius takes him as a sidekick pretty much and stops him from being executed because they have a bigger threat to be caught. And that threat turns out to be a Loki, right? And he thought that Loki would be a good fit because Loki can help him find other Lokis because he thinks like a Loki. And essentially, they start going on missions, right? And then on one of the missions, they find the Loki trader and then drag her to this one circus. And at the circus, they end up finding out that that she set a trap for him. And then they end up trying to figure out that she's hiding in apocalypses, right? Because where she traveled to was someplace that the world was ending. So once they figure out the next apocalypse that she's heading to, they essentially trap her, right? And then once she figures out it's a trap, she tries tricking Loki, the main Loki, Tom Hiddleston, into falling with her, right? And then once he goes with her, they begin on to discover like who they are, and then like fight a little bit, and then they discover like what it means to be a Loki, and then they discover that they aren't really bad people. Once they're together, they figure out that the TVA is the bad person, trying to destroy all these different Lokis and stuff like that. And according to the article by the direct titled Loki Season 1, How it Succeeds, How it Fails, How it Sets Up the MCU's Future by Russ Milham. The show's exploration of identity was eventually taken quite literally when Sylvie was introduced to the audience. Sylvie's the name of the other Loki that they were trying to find. And the bond they share was infectious, and this sets up events to become later in the show. And after this heartfelt moment, they go back to the TVA and end up meeting the people behind the TVA, right? And they end up finding out that the TVA is a lie. The timekeepers are just robots being controlled by other people. And after this, they get into a massive fight with the TVA agents and the main people of the TVA, which ends up with Loki being erased and Mobius being erased too. And up until this point, no one knew what happened when you got erased. And after this point, they end up figuring out what happens. But essentially, they get erased, and then Sylvie's has no idea what to do with herself, so she ends up erasing herself too. And then they all get sent to this plane at the end of the world, right? And once they land there, they see that like that's where everyone who dies ends up, and everyone like everyone in time, like all the timelines that get erased, they all end up over there. So they assume that maybe they can find like the person behind it all. So they ended up finding this one giant beast and stopping it. And once they stopped the giant beast called Goliath, they ended up getting access to the man behind it all. And once they begin to talk to him and figure out like what's he up to, what's he behind, and they figure out that his name is He Who Remains, and he has different incarnations of himself and different versions of this one guy named King the Conqueror who's really bad. And he even knows that because he's the one who started the TVA, and the TVA was meant to stop people from causing multiversal wars, which can't happen at the moment because there's only one timeline. So his idea was that if I stop all the multiverses and make it one one universe, then no one can fight, and as long as everyone stays in line, then time will go along smoothly and there won't be many disruptions. Which is why he wanted TVA done. And essentially, once they figure out why he wanted the TVA made, they try to fight him about it, and then he ends up telling them that he's about to lose his powers pretty much, or he doesn't know what's about to happen next, essentially. And then once they figure this out, there's a short scuffle and debate about whether they should take his power and then become what he does, or just kill him and then let the whole multiverse just break apart. And this is the event that I was talking about. This is what Loki and whenever all the timelines break apart, this is why, because Sylvie pins Loki down, and according to the Men's Health article titled Loki Season 1 Finale Really Went and Changed the Entire MCU, the author Evan Romano, she pushes Loki back through a portal to the TVA and stabs King in the chest. Final words from King: "See you soon," with a smile and a wink. This all happens within a few short moments, but pretty much the impact from this is devastating because it goes from one sacred timeline, which the TVA was trying to protect, to all these different multiverses. And it's just so hard to be able to protect yourself from all these different threats, because he was trying to protect everyone from himself, pretty much. And he already knew that once he dies, another one of himself is going to replace, but it's going to be a bad one this time. And it's going to be someone else who has different intentions, that figures out how to make one timeline or make the TVA. So that's why he wanted them to take over, and then it would be good. But once they kill him, that he knew that the entire multiverse would just break apart. And this has big implications for the entire MCU, because everyone is feeling the effects of this, because there's multiple timelines sprouting out from any decision that anyone makes. And then pretty much after this happens, Loki goes back to his own reality and sees that everything's changed. And then Sylvie realizes like what she done, and Loki realizes that everything's different now, and he has to figure out like what to do next. And this change is so big for everything, because it even sparked the new show Marvel What If, which is about different continuities of different Marvel characters, which never could have happened before until now, because now there's multiverses. So now you see like different characters doing different things, killing people that they shouldn't have killed. Characters that didn't die are dying now. So it's changing everything. And one of the new changes, according to the Inside the Magic article titled All the Rumors About Spider-Man No Way Home, the author Thomas Hitchens stated that the biggest rumor still around the potential appearance of previous old versions of Spider-Man with actors Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield are allegedly set to return to the new movie. And essentially there's a new Spider-Man movie coming out, and it's going to be about all three Spider-Men together, which never could have happened because it's usually one at a time, and right now there's only one that's in the actual Marvel universe, but now they're trying to add the other ones into it. And essentially this is going to break the universe pretty much, because it's already broken, but three Spider-Men never could have happened unless the events in Loki happened. And this is how it changes the MCU. And essentially this is the answer to the question of what it would be like if you were to break the timeline. It sprouted all these different realities. There's characters dying that shouldn't have died. There's characters meeting up that shouldn't meet up. It's the same people, and they're all variants meeting up together. And pretty much what you should have learned from this was this is what happens when you break the timeline. And you should have learned what Loki is, the meaning behind it, the events that happened in Loki, and how it changes the Marvel Universe going forward. Thanks for your time.